I bought my first downtown condo, came home to find my parents moving my sister's furniture inside. Dad held up a fake rental agreement. We put her name on it. She gets the upstairs floor. I smiled and replied. The moving truck was still running when I turned the corner. 2 men I had never hired were carrying a green velvet couch through the front entrance of my building. I stood on the sidewalk holding a bag of groceries and my work laptop, watching a dining table I had never seen pass through the lobby doors of the condo I had signed for 6 weeks ago. My father was standing inside the lobby with a clipboard in his hand. He waved at me through the glass like I was expected, like this was normal. Like 2 strangers hauling someone else's furniture into my home was something I had agreed to over a phone call I did not remember making. I walked through the lobby door. The couch was already against the north wall of my living room. A floor lamp with a beaded shade was leaning against the kitchen island. 3 cardboard boxes labeled Kendra bedroom sat stacked by the staircase that led to my upstairs bedroom. My sister's name was written in black marker on packing tape, each letter careful and round, the handwriting of someone who had already decided this was permanent. My father held up the clipboard. There was a printed document clipped to the front, single-spaced, with a header I recognized, Meridian Property Management. I had seen that header on every maintenance notice, every inspection letter, every lease agreement in every apartment I had ever rented in this city. My father worked for Meridian. He was a maintenance supervisor. He had access to their office, their printers, their templates, and apparently their company seal, because there it was in the bottom left corner of the page, embossed and official, stamped into a document that had my condo's address at the top and my sister's name in the tenant line. "This is how family works, Petra," he said. He held the clipboard facing me so I could read it. "Your sister needs a place. You have 2 floors and no husband, no children, no dog, no roommate, no reason to keep all this space to yourself. You bought a condo too big for one person because you wanted to prove you could do it alone, and now you can prove it by doing what any decent sister would do. She gets the upstairs. You keep the downstairs. This paper makes it official." He paused. Then, he said the part that stopped everything else in my body except my hands, which tightened around the grocery bag until the plastic handles cut into my fingers. "And if you have a problem with it, remember who taught you how to save in the first place. Without me, you would still be renting that studio on Bleecker with a broken heater and a landlord who never picked up the phone. I made you. This is what I am owed." From upstairs, my sister's voice came down the stairwell. "I already told my friends I have a downtown place. You are not going to make me look like a liar." Dad said this was handled. I looked at the lease. I read it top to bottom. The formatting was clean, the language was professional, and the Meridian seal was pressed into the paper with enough weight that you could feel it with your thumb. But there was one line that was empty. One line that mattered more than every other word on the page. Owner signature. Blank. I looked at my father. "Show me where the owner signed it." His face shifted. The confidence did not leave all at once, but it cracked at the edges, the way a windshield cracks from one corner before the lines spread. He looked at the clipboard, then back at me, then at the movers who had stopped in the doorway, holding a bookshelf between them. "We will talk about that later," he said. "The movers are on a schedule. The movers can wait," I said. "Show me the owner's signature." Because I am the owner, and I did not sign anything. He did not answer. I set the groceries on the counter. I walked upstairs. My bedroom door was open. Kendra was inside with a tape measure stretched across the window frame, writing numbers on her phone. On the wall behind her, covering the nail where my framed photo had hung since closing day, was a canvas print of a sunset over water. Kendra had taken down the first thing I ever hung in this condo and replaced it with a decoration she bought at a home goods store. I found the photo behind the canvas, face against the wall, the glass still intact. I picked it up and carried it downstairs. I set it on the kitchen counter beside the groceries. Then I took out my phone and called Josie. "I need you to come over right now," I said. "Bring your laptop." I kept my composure. The movers were still working, my father was still holding that clipboard, and my sister was still measuring windows upstairs like the deal was done. I let them finish unloading because every piece of furniture they carried in was evidence of unauthorized entry into a property they had no legal right to be in, and I wanted every piece documented before it went back out. If you are hearing this story for the first time, this is Family Secret Tales. My name is Petra. I am 29 years old, and the man standing in my living room with a forged lease and a company seal he stole from his employer was about to learn what happens when you try to take something from someone who spent 6 years earning it $1 at a time. Let me go back to the dollars, because that is where this story really starts. I had been sending my father $750 a month for 3.5 years. He said it was for my mother Noreen's dental work, for the house, for keeping things running. Your mother's crown came loose again, or the water heater needs a part, or just things are tight this month, Petra. I never asked for receipts because he was my father, and I did not think I needed to audit my own family. 42 payments, $750 each. $31,500 wired from my checking account to his over 3.5 years. I earned $48,000 a year as a freelance graphic designer. That sounds like a living wage until you subtract the transfers, the self-employment tax, the health insurance I paid out of pocket, and the rent on a studio apartment on Bleecker Street that cost $1,100 a month for 400 square feet of radiator noise and a heater that broke every November. One winter, the heater died on the second day of December. I called my father and told him I needed to hold back that month's transfer to pay for the repair. He said, "Send the money. I will ask around about a space heater for you." I sent the money. He never mentioned the space heater again. I wore 2 sweaters and a hat inside my own apartment for 6 weeks until the landlord fixed it in January. I saved $42,000 for the down payment on this condo. 6 years. That number does not communicate what it actually cost. It cost every vacation I was invited to and said no. It cost the wedding in Austin I skipped because the flight was $300 and $300 was half a monthly transfer to my father. It cost 3 years of eating rice with lentils and hot sauce for dinner because restaurant meals were an expense I could not justify when the numbers were this tight. It cost freelancing until 2 a.m. designing logos and branding packages for companies I could never afford to hire, collecting invoices that took 30 days to pay while the transfers to my father went out in 24 hours without fail. It cost every birthday where someone asked what I wanted and I said nothing because I had already calculated that the thing I wanted cost 6 years of discipline, and anything that delayed it felt like a betrayal of the version of myself who would eventually hold the deed. My college roommate Lisa got married in Austin during year 4. She invited me 8 months in advance. I priced the flight at $280, the hotel at $160 for 2 nights, and the dress at $75. Total, just over $500. I had the money in my savings. I could have gone. But $500 was almost a full month of what I sent my father, and I knew that if I went, I would have to tell him the transfer would be late. And he would call twice the next day asking when it was coming. I texted Lisa, "I cannot make it." "Work," she said she understood. She did not. I did not expect her to. The condo cost $285,000. My mortgage payment was $1,680 a month. Closing costs were $4,200. Total cash out of my savings, $46,200. I signed the deed with a hand that shook so badly the notary asked if I needed water. I did not need water. I needed someone to tell me it was real. The notary was not that person. Josie was. Moving day was a Saturday in January. Josie helped me carry the last box up the stairs. We stood in the empty living room, no furniture, no curtains, just bare hardwood floors and white walls and morning light coming through the east window. Josie took out her phone. "Stand by the window," she said. I stood in the light. She took a photo of me, but that is not the one I framed. After she put her phone away, I took a photo of the room itself. Empty floors, bare walls, just light. I looked at it on my screen and said, "This is the first place that is only mine." Josie looked at me and said, "Then frame it, so you never forget what you did by yourself." I framed it that night. It was the first thing on the wall. The photo hung on a nail above the couch I bought 3 days later, and every morning when I walked past it, I saw the empty room and remembered what it felt like to own something nobody gave me and nobody could take. When my father started calling twice a week after the closing, I thought he was proud of me. He asked about the layout, the square footage, how many bedrooms, whether the upstairs had a separate entrance. I answered every question because I wanted him to see what I had built. I did not realize I was giving him a floor plan. The night after the moving truck, Josie sat on my living room floor surrounded by Kendra's furniture. The green velvet couch was still against the north wall. The floor lamp with the beaded shade was plugged in, glowing amber through the fabric. Kendra's boxes were still stacked by the staircase. Josie held the fake lease in both hands and turned it toward the lamp. She pointed at the bottom left corner. "That is not a printout," she said. "That is an embossed seal. Feel it." I pressed my thumb against it. The ridges were real. Meridian Property Management's logo, their address, their registration number, stamped into the paper with the same company tool that stamps every official lease they produce for their managed buildings. This was not something my father printed at home. He had walked into his employer's office, taken a blank lease template, typed my address and my sister's name into the fields, and pressed the company seal into the page. "This is a company document," Josie said. "This is not family drama anymore. He stole this from his job." I did not sleep well that night, but I got up early the next morning and drove to the police station. I filed a report for unauthorized entry and trespass. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges. I said I wanted the report on file and I would decide about charges after I spoke with my attorney. He gave me a case number and a copy of the report. That afternoon, I met Vance. He was a real estate and civil attorney Josie's cousin had used during a property dispute 2 years earlier. I brought the fake lease, the police report, and my deed. Vance looked at the lease for about 90 seconds before he set it down and said, "This has no legal standing. There is no owner signature, no consideration, and the property management company listed on this document does not manage your building. This is a forged instrument." Day 3. I called a locksmith. New deadbolt, new knob, new key. I had the building manager, Lena, install a security camera at my door. Total cost, $2,400 for the locks and the system. Lena helped me move Kendra's furniture from my unit to the lobby storage room, every piece documented, photographed, and logged in the building's incident record. Lena told me she had security footage of my father and the 2 movers entering the building through the lobby at 4:47 p.m. on day 0, 43 minutes before I arrived. She gave Vance a copy. Day 4 is when the story cracked open wider than I expected. I checked my mailbox that morning and found 2 envelopes addressed to Grady at my condo's address. The first was a business tax filing for a handyman service he had apparently registered 4 months earlier, listing my condo as the business address. The second was a personal loan statement, $15,000, approved 3 weeks after my closing, with my condo listed as his primary residence. I sat at the kitchen counter with both envelopes in front of me and called Vance. "There is more," I said. "Read me the loan statement," Vance said. I read it. He was quiet for a moment, and then he said, "Listing an address you do not own or reside at on a loan application is fraud. This is not a family dispute anymore. This is potentially a federal matter. The next morning, I sat in Vance's office with every document spread across the conference table: the fake lease with the Meridian seal, the police report, the security footage log from Irina, the business tax filing, the loan statement, and 42 months of bank transfers from my checking account to my father's, each one $750. Each one tagged family expenses in the memo line. Vance read through the bank statements for 10 minutes without speaking. Then he looked up. "You sent him $31,500 in 3.5 years, he said. "What did he tell you the money was for?" "My mother's dental work, house repairs, general family expenses." "And did you verify any of that?" "No. Has your mother had significant dental work during this period?" "I called her last night," I said. "Her employer's insurance covers her cleanings. She has not had any major work done. She did not know about the transfers." Vance wrote something on his legal pad and circled it twice, so the stated purpose was false. That changes the demand from a family courtesy dispute to money obtained under false pretenses, significantly stronger. He asked me one more question that changed everything. "Your father co-signed anything recently that you know of?" I called Noreen that evening. She did not know about the lease. She thought Kendra was visiting me for a week. But she told me something she did not think mattered. 2 years ago, Grady had co-signed Kendra's credit card, $22,000 limit. "Your sister has not paid $1 on it," Noreen said. "Your father has been getting the statements. He does not talk about it, but I see them on the counter." I sat with that for a long time after we hung up. The math rearranged itself in my head. My father did not install Kendra in my condo because he loved her or because he was generous. He did it because her $22,000 of co-signed debt was dragging his credit down month by month, and he needed her living rent-free so she could redirect money toward paying him back. The lease was never about helping Kendra. It was about rescuing Grady's credit score. The $15,000 loan application, the one where he listed my address as his residence, was a loan he needed to consolidate his own mounting bills, and he used my condo to qualify because his actual apartment would not have gotten him approved for the amount. Everything he said at the dinner table, every phone call where he asked about the layout. Every month he collected $750 from me while telling me it was for Noreen's dental bills, was a man managing his own financial collapse and using his children as scaffolding. If you have been following this story, you know my father had already lost. He just had not been told yet. If you are new here, subscribe to Family Secret Tales, because what happened next is the part I planned in silence and delivered on paper. On day 7, Vance sent the letter. It went to both Grady and Kendra by certified mail. The envelope was thick because the letter was 12 pages, and it covered everything: cease and desist, immediate removal of all personal property from the condo, no further entry to the building, no further contact with Petra without counsel present. Any violation would result in additional charges. Demand for repayment, $31,500, the total of 42 monthly transfers sent under false pretenses. Grady had told Petra the money was for Noreen's dental bills and household expenses. Vance confirmed with Noreen that she had received no significant dental work beyond routine cleanings covered by her employer's insurance during that entire 3.5-year period. The money went somewhere, but it did not go where Grady said it would, and the false representation made the entire sum recoverable as money obtained through deception. Notification to Meridian Property Management. A copy of the forged lease with the company seal clearly visible, accompanied by a formal letter explaining that their maintenance supervisor had used company resources, specifically their official lease template and embossing seal, to fabricate a legal document for personal use. The letter included the security footage timestamps from Irina showing Grady entering the building with movers during business hours on a day he was logged as working a half shift at Meridian. notification to the lender, a copy of Petra's deed proving that the address on Grady's $15,000 loan application belonged to her, not to him, and that he had never resided at the property. The letter requested a formal review of the application. By the time my father finished reading those 12 pages, every lie he had built over 3.5 years was documented with dates, amounts, witnesses, and legal citations. The certified mail receipt came back signed. He could not claim he had not received it. Day 8. Kendra posted on Instagram. 3 photos of the condo taken the day the movers came. My kitchen counter with the marble backsplash I picked out myself. My bedroom window with the curtains I ordered from a catalog during year 5 of saving. And my living room with the morning light hitting the hardwood floors I refinished the second weekend after moving in. The caption read, "Finally got my own downtown place. Living my best life." She used 3 hashtags, downtown living, new apartment, blessed. Josie screenshotted the post the same hour and sent it to me with a single text, "She used your curtains." I did not respond immediately. I waited until the post had 200 likes and 12 comments from Kendra's friends congratulating her. Then I commented once. One image, the deed, zoomed to the section showing the owner's name, my name, the only name on the document. Captioned, "This is my condo. I bought it." She moved in without permission and without a valid lease. The owner's name is on page 1. The comment section shifted within hours. 340 comments in 48 hours, most of them from people who had seen Kendra's original post and were now reading the deed. Kendra deleted her entire Instagram account before the weekend was over. Every photo, every caption, every carefully constructed version of a life she did not own was gone in one tap. Day 10. The confrontation. But it was not a confrontation in the way most people imagine, because Grady and Kendra had already received the letter 3 days earlier. They already knew what was in it. They already knew about the police report, the Meridian notification, the lender notification, and the demand. This meeting was not about revelation. It was about terms. They arrived at the condo at 6 p.m. The door was opened by my hand because the old keys no longer worked. Grady walked in first and scanned the room. Every piece of Kendra's furniture was gone. The walls were bare except for 2 of my prints and, on the far wall, the nail where the photo had hung before Kendra covered it with her canvas. The nail was empty. I had taken the frame down earlier that week and put it in my bag. I was not ready to hang it again until this was over. Vance sat at the dining table with 3 folders, each one labeled. Grady pulled out a chair and tried to open with the voice he used when he wanted something to feel informal. "Let us just talk about this as a family, Petra. We do not need all of this." He gestured at the folders, at Vance, at the formality of the setting. "Sit down," I said. Vance opened the first folder. The police report, the security footage log, the fake lease with the Meridian seal circled in red marker. He read the summary aloud. Unauthorized entry. Forged instrument. Use of employer resources to fabricate a legal document. Grady's right hand moved from the table to his thigh, hiding it below the surface. "That lease was just a formality," he said. "I was trying to make things easy for everyone." "A formality does not have a company seal," Vance said. "A formality does not list a management company that has no relationship with this property. This document was created using your employer's official template and embossing tool. That is employment misconduct and document forgery." Vance opened the second folder. The loan statement. The business tax filing. Both at Petra's address. "That loan is between me and the bank," Grady said. His jaw locked shut. A vein appeared on the left side of his forehead. He leaned back, then forward, then stopped, unable to settle. Vance opened the third folder. The demand letter. $31,500. I stood up. "You took $750 from me every month for 3.5 years," I said. You told me it was for Mom's dental work. Her employer's insurance covered her cleanings the entire time. You told me it was for the water heater, the furnace, the house. I never asked for a receipt because you were my father and I trusted you. That is $31,500 you collected from a woman earning $48,000 a year, a woman who ate rice for dinner and skipped her friend's wedding in Austin because $300 was money she had already promised to you. Kendra's phone went face down on the table. Both her arms crossed over her chest, wrapping around her own forearms. You co-signed Kendra's $22,000 credit card 2 years ago, I continued. She has not made a single payment. You are on the hook for every dollar, and your credit has been dropping every month since. So you moved her into my condo, without asking me, without a valid lease, with a forged document you stole from your own employer, because if she lived rent-free, she could start paying you back. This was never about family, Grady. This was about your credit score and the $15,000 loan you needed to qualify for. Grady's breathing shifted. Short pulls through his nose, fast enough that I could hear them from across the table. And 3 weeks after I closed on this condo, you walked into a bank and wrote my address on a $15,000 loan application. You told the lender you lived here. You have never spent a single night in this building. That is address fraud on a loan application. That is not a family disagreement. That is a federal issue. And the lender now has my deed. Grady's chair creaked. He shifted backward, then forward, then held still. I looked at him directly. You want to know what I think about what you said at the dinner? You said you made me. Let me tell you what you actually made. You made a woman eat rice for 3 years because she could not afford groceries and your transfers at the same time. You made me skip my friend's wedding because $300 was money I had already promised to send you for dental work that my mother's insurance already covered. You made me live in a studio with a broken heater for 6 weeks in December because you told me to send the repair money to you instead of fixing it. You did not make me, Grady. You delayed me by 3.5 years and $31,500. Everything I built around the hole you put in my life. His shoulders dropped. His chin followed. His whole posture folded inward like something structural had given way. You forged a lease on my property with your employer's seal. The deed has one name. Mine. Your signature is fraud. Mine is law. The room held still. Vance did not move. Kendra's eyes went to Grady, searching for something, a plan, an argument, a way to reframe this, and finding nothing. Grady looked older than 58 in that chair. He looked like a man watching the last door close. This is the last conversation without an attorney present, I said. The last dollar. The last key. The last time you walked through this door without my permission. Every transfer stops today. Every shared account closes this week. If either of you contacts me outside of the 30-day response window on that demand letter, Vance handles it. Grady sat for a moment. Then he tried one more thing. He leaned forward, and his voice dropped to something that was supposed to sound reasonable. Fine, he said. I will move her out. I will leave you alone. But let me keep the address on the loan. It is just paperwork. Nobody checks. I will get it changed in 6 months. I did not answer. Vance did. The lender has already been notified, Vance said. They received a copy of Petra's deed yesterday. The address discrepancy is under review. Grady's face changed. Not anger. Something worse. The understanding that every escape route had already been closed before he walked through the door. Kendra stood up without speaking. She walked toward the lobby where her last box of belongings sat against the wall, the things Irina had stored after the furniture was moved. Kendra reached for the box but did not pick it up. She stood over it with both hands at her sides, looking at the contents: a desk lamp, 3 picture frames, a bag of toiletries, a pair of slippers she had brought expecting to stay. I walked past her. I picked up the box. I carried it through the lobby, pushed the front door open with my shoulder, and set it on the curb. Then I walked back inside and the lobby door closed behind me. The consequences arrived on a schedule that Grady could not negotiate with or charm his way around. Day 14. Meridian Property Management's HR department called Grady into a meeting. Ellis, his coworker of 11 years, had initially told HR that Grady was just helping his daughter and that it was a personal matter that had nothing to do with the company. But when HR showed Ellis the forged lease with the company seal, with Meridian's official template formatting and the embossed logo that only authorized personnel could apply, Ellis read the document from top to bottom, set it back on the desk, and said nothing. He did not speak on Grady's behalf again. The HR director asked Grady one question. "Did you use company property to create this document?" Grady said, "It was just a template. I did not think it was a big deal." The HR director said, "You used our company seal to forge a legal instrument for personal gain. That is a termination offense under Section 12 of the Employee Handbook, which you signed 23 years ago." Grady's badge was collected that afternoon. His office was cleaned out by security. His $46,000 salary, the one he had been supplementing with my transfers for 3.5 years, was gone. Day 18. The lender called Grady about the address discrepancy on his $15,000 personal loan. They had received a copy of Petra's deed from Vance's office showing that the address Grady listed as his primary residence belonged to a different person entirely. The loan was frozen pending investigation. Payments were suspended, which sounds like relief until you understand what a frozen loan means. It means the bank is deciding whether to call the entire balance due at once. Grady now had no income, a frozen loan, a $22,000 co-signed debt that Kendra would never pay on $1,200 a month of part-time retail, and a daughter sleeping on his couch because the downtown apartment she told her friends about had changed its locks 3 weeks ago. Day 21. Noreen called me. She had known none of it, not the lease, not the loan, not the co-signed credit card, not the $31,500 I had been sending for dental work she never received beyond what her insurance already covered. She had asked Grady about the money once 2 years ago, and he told her Petra liked helping out, and that it was her idea. He rewrote the story so thoroughly that Noreen felt grateful to me for money she never saw. "He told me Kendra was visiting you for a week," Noreen said. "I asked why she needed a moving truck, and he said she was bringing some things to store in your spare room. I asked why she could not just take a suitcase. He said she was between apartments and needed somewhere to keep her furniture for a few days. Every question I asked, he had an answer. I believed him. I should not have, but I did." She paused for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was thinner. "How long was the money going on?" 3.5 years, I said. 42 payments. 42, she repeated. She said the number like she was counting something inside her own memory, trying to match it against what she had been told. "I am sorry, Petra. I did not know any of it. I am so sorry." I told her I believed her. I did. Noreen was not part of this. She was the name my father used as a reason when he needed one, the same way he used Meridian's seal when he needed a document and my address when he needed a loan. She stopped returning Grady's calls after that conversation. Not with a speech or an announcement. She simply stopped picking up, stopped responding to texts, stopped answering the door when he came by. The silence was louder than anything she could have said, and Grady heard it clearly because he called her 14 times in the first week and she let everyone go to voicemail. I almost grabbed the lease out of my father's hand that first night and tore it in half. But the company seal in the corner stopped me. Meridian's logo, embossed and official. If I destroyed that document, I destroyed the evidence that my father had used his employer's resources to commit fraud. The lease needed to stay intact. It needed to go to Vance, and then to Meridian, and then to a file where it would sit as proof of exactly what my father was willing to steal to protect his own credit. So I left it in his hand. I let him hold the evidence of his own crime and walk out of my condo carrying it like it meant something. I almost called Noreen that same night to tell her everything, sitting on the kitchen floor with my back against the island and my phone in my lap. Josie talked me out of it. Let Vance handle it, she said. If your mom finds out from you, your dad rewrites the story before she finishes hearing it. Let the letter land first. Let the documents speak for themselves. I almost let Kendra's Instagram post go. She had posted 3 photos of my condo and called it hers, and part of me wanted to ignore it, to let the legal process handle everything without a public confrontation. But the third shot stopped me. It was the bedroom window, my curtains, my morning light. The same window I had framed on closing day, the same light that came through the glass every morning and landed on the wall where Kendra had hung a sunset canvas she bought for $12 over the one thing in my apartment that mattered. She was claiming my light. That was the thing I could not let stand. If this story has meant something to you, if you have ever had someone walk into the thing you built and act like it belonged to them, subscribe to Family Secret Tales. Because these are the stories about what happens when someone underestimates the person holding the deed. 5 weeks after the confrontation, Kendra drove downtown. She parked across the street from the building in a metered spot and sat in the car for a few minutes before getting out. I know this because Irina saw her on the security camera and sent me a text, "Your sister is outside. She is sitting in her car staring at the building." A few minutes later, Kendra got out. She walked across the street with her purse over one shoulder and her keys in her right hand. She was wearing the same jacket she had worn the day the movers came, the oversized denim one with patches on the elbows. She approached the lobby door, separated the old condo key from her keyring, and inserted it into the deadbolt. It did not turn. She pulled it out, checked the key, and tried again. Same result. A third time, slower, pressing harder, wiggling the key left and right as if the problem was alignment and not the fact that the lock no longer recognized her. She stood at the door for 2 minutes. Her phone was in her pocket and she never reached for it. She did not call Grady, she did not text me, she did not buzz Irina or try the building manager's after-hours line. She sat down on the concrete steps and put both hands on her knees and watched the street like someone waiting for a bus that had already passed. A woman Kendra had never met walked up to the door, inserted a key that worked, and disappeared inside without looking back. The lobby light came on through the glass, and Kendra watched it through the door she could no longer open. After 5 more minutes, she stood up, put the useless key back in her pocket, and drove to Grady's apartment, where she was sleeping on his couch because she could not afford the downtown place she had told her friends about and could not afford the $22,000 credit card debt that had started this entire chain of events. She did not mention the key to Grady. Some things you only try alone, standing outside a door that used to open, holding a piece of metal that no longer means anything. Grady's world by day 45 looked like this. Terminated from Meridian Property Management after 23 years, escorted from the building by a security guard who had called him by his first name for a decade. The $15,000 loan frozen under investigation, with the lender sending weekly letters requesting documentation he could not provide because the documentation would prove the fraud. $22,000 of co-signed credit card debt that Kendra would never repay on $1,200 a month, with minimum payments that Grady could no longer afford without a salary. Noreen not returning his calls, not answering his texts, not opening the door when he drove to her apartment on a Tuesday afternoon. Ellis at work pretending Grady's desk had always been empty, deleting their shared text thread, declining to give Grady a reference when he applied for a maintenance position at a competing property company. And the demand letter from Vance for $31,500 sitting on his kitchen table beside the fake lease that had started everything. The Meridian seal was still embossed into the paper. It was the most official-looking document he had ever produced, and it ended his career, his loan, and his marriage in the same month. My world looked like this. The condo was quiet. Early morning, the kind where the city has not started yet, and the light comes in low through the east window. I stood in the living room with a coffee on the counter and the apartment around me exactly the way I had chosen it. My desk against the north wall, where the green velvet couch used to be. My books on the shelf I built myself with brackets from the hardware store. My curtains, the ones Kendra photographed and called hers. The photo was back on the wall, same nail, same spot above the couch, inside the frame, empty floors, bare walls, morning light. The room I had walked into on closing day with nothing but Josie and a box and a camera phone. The room where I stood in the light and said, "This is the first place that is only mine." The room around me was no longer empty. It was furnished, lived in, warm, but the light was the same. The morning came through the same window, hit the same wall, landed on the same floor. And the name on the deed, the mailbox, the mortgage, the doorbell, and the lock was the same name it had always been. Mine. I took a sip of coffee. The lock was new. The frame on the wall was old. And everything between them was something I had paid for myself, one transfer at a time, for 6 years, without anyone's permission and without anyone's name beside my own. Some people are taught that family means sharing everything. I was taught that family means someone will always find a reason to take what you built. The difference is what you do after you figure that out. You change the locks. You hang the frame back up. And you stand in the light, because nobody else earned it.